You mentioned the word dream. I read somewhere, and that obviously this is from the internet, so I don't know if it's true, but the best, that you said the best shows you had were kind of like a dreamlike experience.
They are, yeah.
Is that how you experience performing live?
Yes, at its best, that's exactly how I experience it performing live. It's just a fantastic kind of sense of movement and colour, and you can close your eyes and be in a song. You can look out and see if people, not even just literally like that, it just sort of is a very, very distinct, colourful and powerful experience in a way. And the strange thing is when you finish a show, this is my experience. Finishing a show is like waking up from a dream in a way. So you forget it. You know, those mornings when you wake up and you've had a fantastic dream, or a terrible dream for that matter, and you can't quite remember what it is, and it slips away. And performing's like that. I mean, the next day I can rationalize and say, oh, last night was a great show, there were so many people there, it was in a pretty room, or it was outdoors, or whatever. But I can't remember really what that true experience was, the actual dreamlike experience of it. And then when you're back on stage, you can remember every other show you've ever done, and the experience of how that is again. And yet it finishes, you know, a week after tour finishes, I can't remember what it's like to be on stage or to tour anymore. Not in that truly addictive, wonderful way that gets you for a few moments on good shows.
But is it the same then for every show?
No, I mean, some shows you don't get that feeling. Some shows aren't as good as other shows. Some shows that you just have to be professional and try and do a good job, because people have paid to come and see you, and that's what we do for a living. You know, we're musicians, and so we have to try and, you know, do what we do. But the true, you know, the dreamlike quality I was talking about is only for the good shows. Okay. For the really good shows, for the moments when you're not getting paid for that moment, you are truly experiencing that moment, and hopefully it's the same for the audience when they have a good moment. I know that's what I feel sometimes also when I watch other people perform. I have a moment where I think, this is the, you know, the real great experience of the night.
If you go back to your early years, then did you experience music the same way?
When I was young, and that's very much when this band was put together, music was just so exciting. It was so much fun. I remember really just, I mean, I was at film school and doing creative writing, and I was doing shows during the week. This is when I was 19 or 20, just finished school. And I just remember we had a Sunday show at the Prince of Wales, which is a venue in Melbourne. And I would I think we did it every second Sunday, and I would just look forward to that time so much. And then when we had it, it was just kind of the most fantastic thing. And those dreamlike moments I was talking about lasted for a lot longer in a way, because the first time you experience something is perhaps the biggest rush. Yeah, and I think that the experience of that youthfulness was very much the spirit of the Cat Empire when it was first brought together. And now it's a question of doing what we do and still presenting that feeling in a way that still is authentic to us as people who have grown up and travelled a lot and changed. So that's a continuous challenge to try and maintain that real energy, that youthfulness with music that we enjoy now.
What have you found lately that, because I can imagine that it's not the same as back then. So what do you realize now that's working for you to get that feeling, to keep that going? I think
it's firstly you become a better musician.
Okay.
That's important. I can sing a little bit now, and I couldn't sing when the band started out. So that's a nice experience to be able to for me to concentrate on a voice and sort of hear that develop in a way. Also to listen to the other musicians in the band improve, to hear new things happen, to kind of keep on exploring that relationship, which grows stronger in a way. It's an unspoken bond that grows stronger the more people are in bands, I think. And then the other thing is the crowd. I mean, the crowd really keeps us excited about this kind of music. They arrive to our concerts not sort of standing back and expecting, what are you going to do for us? They kind of arrive there with a sense of occasion and celebration, and they bring us a lot of energy. a very generous crowd, I think. So that also plays a big part in it.
And this bond between you, the band members, has it helped make albums, that process of making albums easier? Has that become easier then?
No, I mean, when I say that there's a bond between us, there is, but I feel like it's a very musical bond. For instance, none of us went to school together. I doubt many of us would have been friends had we not been musicians.
Why?
I'm not sure. Probably firstly because we grew up in very different parts of the city. Secondly, because I'm not sure if that's. I think the bond has always been musical, and that's one of the best connections you can have with someone, I think. But it does, in terms of how we communicate, we tend to argue a lot. We disagree on a lot of things. Making albums isn't that easy. They're very. I mean, I think the musicianship is very good, so we can learn songs quickly. For instance, the songs we've been recording for the new album, we didn't do any rehearsals. We decided just to come in, present ideas, play them, and you know, we'd usually be able to create a song very quickly, that sort of thing. But then, yeah, I mean, the bond I was talking about wasn't that. We argue a lot. We also have a lot of tensions at various stages. We also laugh a lot as well. I mean, we're friends too, but I think that the strongest thing about this band is the chemistry between the musicians and that unspoken bond. Yeah.
You mentioned this. Well, friction isn't the right word, but the disagreement of opinions about certain stuff. How do you, as a band with so many members, how do you find a consensus?
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's a question of just willpower. One person kind of being okay. Sometimes it's a question of one person just saying this is how it's going to be. I used to try and do that a lot more, I think. Now I tend to try and go with the flow, see where it wants to go collectively. Sometimes we throw a song away, restart it again. Sometimes someone just doesn't like the song and it gets recorded that way and goes there. I mean, generally when there's a deadline and a thing takes on a form, the producer can play a really important part in that as well. I mean, I think for us, we've worked with a guy called Jan Skubaszewski for Steal the Light and for this one. And he's a fantastic producer as much as anything because he's a very good communicator and he's particularly good amongst this group of people. And so often when we aren't agreeing on something, he can just step in and say this is good or this isn't good, and we kind of let him have the last word on those things. And I think that's part of the reason why producers are valuable for bands as well.
And well, we've mentioned the upcoming album. How far along are you?
We're pretty close. Like, I mean, after this tour in Europe, we're going to go back to the studio, finish off a couple of things, and then I think, you know, after that we'll get into really finishing off and hopefully having it out next year.
Do you have an album title yet?
Yes, but I can't announce it just yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, then finally, last question. Who is your own favorite live performer?
That's a really hard question.
Or just one that you really like.
It's hard not to name classics, and I'd like to name a few if possible, because in terms of like a heartfelt reaction to a performance, I think my favourite show was seeing the Springsteen band, the E Street Band, at the New Orleans Jazz Festival, playing a lot of the music he played with the Sessions Band. That was one of the great live performances I've seen. But having said that, Toumani and Sidiki Diabati are two kora players from Mali, and that's some of the most pure music I've ever heard in my life. And it was a very, very different reaction, but I can't say one's better than the other necessarily, because they're so different and they sort of touch different parts of my soul, I feel like. And Leonard Cohen, I got to say, I've got a real soft spot for him. He's someone who I kind of felt I knew before I knew him, and the first time I saw him was a real moment for me. Yeah.
Can you take me back? When was this?
This was probably when he first made his comeback. He sort of came out of obscurity from Montreal after the Wainwrights did their tribute to him. I think then he sort of reclaimed his world success, as far as I can tell. Then he came to Australia. He's been there 3 times since, but I think it must have been about 8 years ago. Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago.
What was it, or obviously still is it, about his music that hit you?
It's mostly just his songwriting. When I hear other people's songwriting, they move me emotionally if I like them. They move me. Sometimes they make me want to cry. Sometimes they make me want to laugh. Sometimes they... Either way, they take a lot of my sentimental reaction. It takes a lot of energy to listen to them, which is a great thing to require of someone in a way. But when I listen to Leonard Cohen, he gives me this great sense of calm. And no other songwriter, no one who uses words, gives me that feeling. Instrumental artists do, and composers give me that feeling sometimes, but he tends to fill up a space in me that just leaves me feeling calm, which is a real gift.
And then similarly, then, is this also what you try to do with your audience, to find an emotional connection?
Of course, yeah, I try to. I mean, it's strange because I respond to a number of different things. Sometimes I can't really settle in on one thing in my life in terms of musical reaction. Sometimes I'm in the Cat Empire and I want to feel a room ignite and I want to make people dance, and I'd like to draw on something which is perhaps more joyful in music, which is actually harder to do than sad, believe it or not. And and sometimes I want to try and create that sense of calm, which is for me almost the height of songwriting. But it's a long road being a songwriter, and I'm not sure if I've succeeded in all that much just yet. But I do enjoy the challenge of it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Robin. Appreciate it. Yeah.